Hey guys, it's me, I'm back. I was gonna save this video for the finale, like after the whole season is over, but I'm gonna talk about it now. I wanna talk about The Boys Season 5. Now, let's start with my biggest complaint about this season is the inconsistency of a character who shows up here again. Spoiler alert, I'm gonna talk about the whole show. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert. I did not like what they did with Soldier Boy. I think he has been by far the most inconsistent character in this season. He keeps switching up his allegiance to Homelander. So he's like, I hate you. You're weird. You're ugly. But you're my ugly weird son. Oh, I don't want you anymore. You're too weird. You had sex with Stormfront? Get away from me. But I'm going to give you the V1 because it's what Clara would have wanted. That's him throughout the whole season. And you want to know what they do to him at the very end in the penultimate episode? In episode 7, Homelander. So, after Homelander gets the V1, Soldier Boy is like, yeah, I'm dipping, man. You're too weird. Homelander doesn't let him because he needs Daddy to be with him. So he, puts Soldier Boy in a chokehold, and he goes back to sleep. What was the point of bringing his character back only for that to be the payoff, where he keeps switching up only to ultimately give Homelander what he needed, the V1, which is basically like the first iteration of Compound V, where it makes you immortal, you can't age or whatever, and it also makes you immune to the virus, because it was tested against Soldier Boy, but he only gets knocked out and then he neutralizes it. By the way, the virus that we have spent a whole season building up with, even with Gen V, the spinoff, that gets completely abandoned in the 4th episode, I believe, when Newman's husband, Samir, he finds out that Butcher was the one to kill Newman and it wasn't Homelander, and him and Zoe run away and the virus is out of the blue. It's gone. It's not there anymore, so they have to kind of resort to other methods that they don't really resort to until the very end. They don't really do anything anymore. The boys are just kind of just chilling and then, kind of just complaining about how, well, we can't do anything, so let's go find the V1 because that seems to be what they're doing now. And so it's kind of a race for that V1. But I just didn't really like how Soldier Boy, because that's my biggest complaint, is that this season has spent so much time building up to a prequel, Vought Rising, but they don't really ever close off some of the things that need to be concluded. Like some of the character arcs that we have spent several seasons building up get no attention at all. The best example is Ryan. So Ryan finds out from Butcher that he is the one who has to kill Homelander. At least he has to play a part in it because, Ryan he has potential. He has Homelander's laser vision. He's got, some muscle in him. He can fend off Homelander-ish. He confronts Homelander after he finds out Becca, was raped and he is just a bastard child. Homelander gets the upper hand on him and he gives him the good Omni-Man treatment to Invincible, where he just beats up Ryan and that's it. We don't see Ryan ever again throughout the whole season. And he'll be in the finale. It seems like the trailer's showing that. But come on, dude. He just gets beat up and that's it. I just don't like how characters like him get ignored. And another character, Ashley, she shows up a bit more, but there's just no progression to what she will do, because throughout this whole show, she has spent so much, time pondering, can she, run away from Vought? Can she get out of this job where she is, by Homelander's hands and he's just, controlling her? What is she gonna do? Is she gonna stay or is she gonna run away like A-Train told her in the previous season? It feels like there's just nothing about her anymore. She develops a second face, freaking Voldemort in the first Harry Potter movie, where she has an alternate she has her conscience speaking to her, but she shuts her off at the very end. She's like, don't talk to me anymore, and Ashley's just kind of alone. Her power is honestly kind of lame. She just reads minds. Okay. it's just kind of disappointing that we don't get much attention. Like Edgar, he's always been the guy to have something up his sleeve, or you would think that he's got a plan. He doesn't. I kid you not, he gives so when he lets the boys in and they get ambushed, he later locks them in, only for Deep and Noir to kidnap him, send him to Homelander. He tells Homelander where the V1 might potentially be, and that's it. You don't see Edgar ever again. Really odd decision that you don't give any attention to these characters that we have spent so much time investing in, just to invest in new characters, and this whole storyline all of a sudden that exists for the sake of a prequel. Dude, the freaking main actor, the main star of Vought Rising is Soldier Boy. People are gonna watch it. But I doubt people are going to watch it anymore because they've ruined his character. He's always constantly juggling. He's either sucking Homelander's dick or he doesn't. I don't get it. What was the point of all of that just for him to go back to sleep? It's such a waste of time, and it's my biggest complaint is that this season has spent so much time with that only to give you no payoff. Another complaint that I have, and this is something that maybe a few individuals might have a problem with because maybe people just didn't care, what they did with the Gen V crew. So Marie, what we learn is that she is kind of like Homelander, power level wise, maybe, because like Homelander, she got popped out of a test tube as well. She has big potential with her blood bending powers, and she wants to help. She, her and Jordan and Starlight they meet up with each other, and she's like, hey, Starlight, what should we do? Starlight says, fuck you. Get out, you're benched. Dude, throughout this whole season, Starlight has been more annoying ever. She doesn't really win a fight anymore, other than a Z-list stoop like Dognot, who I feel like if any of the other boys did try, they could probably take him on too. She loses another fight against Allfather. She's clearly weak, and she's very limited with her powers, by the way. Even when she saves the boys, she can't carry more than one person at a time. Dude, she has super strength. How can you not carry two people at the same time? I just feel like they have forgotten that they were kind of teasing that Starlight would be more powerful. Nope. She's still, limited. She can't use her light powers, if there is no light. She flies now, but that's really it. I just didn't really like her character in the season. I think they've just kind of ruined her. You don't really root for Annie anymore. She later meets up with her dad, who we don't see any, we've gotten no attention about her father. It's always been her mother, if I remember. Nope, she's completely out of the picture. So now let's go to her dad. And all we get from it is just her dad telling her, I'm proud of you. I've always been proud of you, even though I abandoned you. Okay. Not really much interesting there. But I just think, aside from that, though, they also ruined Butcher's character too. I think, so in the previous season, what I thought they would do is Butcher goes on this, Hitler soup killing rampage where he accepted Kessler's deal that he will kill every soup. He's gung-ho about that sometimes, but then he's kind of juggling with his morality where maybe there is some human left in him. And it's not a big problem, but they kind of just keep having him switch around where he'll be like, oh yeah, let's kill all the soups. Maybe Annie and Kimiko can have the V1. Oh no, we gotta do whatever it takes. But once we get out of here, Huey, let's go see some titties at the Hooter bar. I just didn't really like that. I also just don't like that the boys now, there's really no sense of danger for them, because Soldier Boy's role was to find Butcher and, hunt the boys down. He completely abandons that mission and helps Homelander to find the V1. So there's no one searching for the boys, which is weird because Homelander, what it sounds like, the whole nation is overrun with soups. Each city has their own designated local soup. Why didn't he ever have them, or just any of them in general, to ever think to maybe try and find Butcher and his crew? When really there's only been two Supes who, one of them died early on, by the way. It's literally just the teenage Kicks. They are the local Supes that are trying to hunt them down, but they're just weak and you don't really feel like, they were in ever real danger. I just didn't like how this whole season felt like it just kind of felt like another season. It doesn't feel like the final, dangerous season where all the boys are in danger. And a lot of people have been complaining, or at least people who do enjoy the show. Cool to you, by the way. If you enjoy it, good for you. But a lot of people have been saying, God, the fans of the boys just want action every episode. They're just so brain rot. I disagree. I think the show doesn't, I agree. The show doesn't need pure action every episode. What it should have been doing is, flesh out the characters we've already have and dive into some of the other characters that didn't really get much attention. Like, what will Ryan do? What will Ashley do? What does Edgar have up in his plan? We don't get any of that. And the only times they flesh out, like the boys, like, MM and Frenchie, is only just the second to last episode, where that's literally the title of that episode is their names, but Frenchie is the only one who died. By the way, that really didn't make me sad. I think they've made his death underwhelming too. And people have been saying like, oh good, Frenchie's dead because the actor is part of the IDF. I don't know anything about that. I separate that from like the show. I just think Frenchie's death was underwhelming. I think they've, started to remember that there are stakes in the show now, but that's just kind of not there. It's kind of non-existent. Like, the boys aren't really hunted anymore in this season. Oh yeah, and another thing, speaking of the boys, Kimiko, in like the beginning, like the first half of the season, talks in porn language. Like, she'll go like, oh, like, we're so fucked. Like, double anal penetration, choking the cock fucked. And then Huey, like, tells her, hey, stop talking in porn lingo and talk like a normal person. And she says, nope, I like talking like a gooner. It's like, why would you, like, undermine, like, a development in which we, they have made Kimiko where she is trying to overcome her trauma and finally speak again, only for that to be belittled with just her speaking in gooner language was a really odd decision. Like, I think what this show does, by the way, is they keep making sex jokes and just do a lot of sexually inappropriate things. And I want to make it very clear. I know this show has always been doing that, but it's just not funny anymore. Like, they're not creative as they used to be. Like, I think the most recent one that I thought was hilarious was in the previous season where Centipede, whatever, a Splinter, he does like a centipede with himself where, if you know, you know. Like, stuff like that was creative. But all the jokes here and all the sex is just really, it's just thrown at your face. Like, here, I'm gonna slap you with sex because this is an R-rated, edgy show. Especially Soldier Boy, by the way. Most of his dialogue now is just him. Like either anything about Clara, like, aside from that, he talks about how he's, like, screwed some of the old actresses back in his day. Like, he just keeps bringing that up. I'm just like, okay, like, haha, funny, cool. Like, the only joke I think he made up, like, I thought it was pretty funny was when he, like, confronts Bombsight, and then Bombsight's like, oh, I want to smash that pretty face in. And then Soldier Boy's like, Buddy the Queen sat on this face. It's a national treasure. Like, that one was pretty funny. But most of his dialogue now is just, yeah, I screwed her with a water bottle and, put a lot of lube in her tube, and really, really weird. It's just not funny anymore. Like, they're just like, okay, I get it, sex, funny, like, let's move on. Like, let's get some serious dialogue here. You don't really get that anymore. And there's a lot of other things that I would complain about. I think that's kind of it. Let's talk about the things that I think this season did a really good job with. I think how A-Train is killed off in this season, I think they did an amazing job with that. So right before he dies, after he saves the boys from the internment camp, he saves Huey from getting lasered by Homelander. they go on this wild like chase. Homelander's like hunting them down. A-Train, he sees a girl. She's about to cross the street. Just some random girl you never see who kind of resembles Robin. If you remember that, Huey's girlfriend who he ran through in the very first episode, in which kicks off this whole story. He sees her and he could run through her and save, himself, but he doesn't. He dodges her, loses his footing for him to only get caught up by Homelander, and he can't run anymore. I really like how they did that, because now it's like, well, yeah, he's going to die, but the final action he has made is that he saves someone's life in exchange of his own. And before he dies, Homelander, like oh my god, I'm tired. This is actually my second time recording this review, by the way, because the first review, the background audio was so wonky, I had to remake this. But anyways, that's besides the point. I like when A-Train tells Homelander who he really is. You are nothing without your powers. You're ugly. You suck. Get out. You're poopy. And then even when Homelander's like choking A-Train out, A-Train is still laughing at him, because he knows that Homelander is weak and pathetic without his powers. And when Homelander snaps his neck, that's the end of the A-Train. I really like how they sent him off, and I really like what they did with his arc overall throughout this whole show. I think that was one of the character arcs that they have done an amazing job with. I really loved what they did with A-Train. Like, I thought that was so good. I think them kind of fleshing out the Seven here in like that one episode where they kind of do this like whole weapon sequence where they like switch perspectives. Thought that was okay. We see the Deep. He's just being the Deep. And Noir, he gets killed, by the way. And then because they had like a banter with each other, trying to like get Homelander's approval. And, they just don't like each other anymore. Sage, I gotta tell you, she's not really the smartest here anymore. She's actually a bit more dumb and reckless with her decisions. Like, she doesn't really do much other than just to observe. So I think they've kind of done a fumble with her character, but I don't want to dive too much into that. I think Firecracker, however, I thought they did pretty well with. So, she is juggling with her faith in Homelander or Jesus. She was a devout Christian. We even see her meet her old pastor. But with their whole Vought propaganda, she ultimately betrays her pastor, calling him a pedophile. And with this Jesus action figure she, grew up with, she throws that in the trash, ultimately pledging her allegiance to Homelander. But, Homelander thinks, I don't know if you really believe in me that I will ascend to be God. She is like, oh no, I love you, I worship you. Even a god like you needs love. And that's the end of Firecracker as he like pierces her face through like a metal like thing. Like, I thought they did pretty well with that. Like, I can see, they're just trying to kill off the Seven now, because the Seven is a complete joke now. There hasn't ever been 7 members ever since like Translucent died. So that's just kind of nearing its end too. Like, they're closing that up. Like, I liked how they did that. And I think MM has been the most consistent character in this show. Like, he is kind of, so in the earlier on in the season, he kind of tells Butcher, I'm done with life. Like, I give up. Like, he's gotten to a point where his OCD isn't there anymore, and he'll eat, chocolate from the ground, because of the 5-second rule. But then when he comes with, fighting She-Line or whatever, like right before that, he has this whole talk on where his name really comes from. It's from him being a nurturing dude who, wants to save, people or animals in need. And that's where he gets that nickname. And he likes that nickname because he's all about, in the midst of all the chaos and the evil and the destruction, he still wants to do the right thing. He still wants to, find purpose and, saving people in need and just being a good guy and just living on in life. And he ultimately gets his OCD back again, whipping out the whole wet wipes, and he's found his purpose that he does want to live. Like, I think they did a really good job with MM. Like, I've always enjoyed his character throughout the whole show. Though I think his contributions in the season, like the rest of the other characters here, they don't really do much anymore. But that's really all I have to say. My point is, this has been a 20-minute rant, by the way. I'm sorry. My point is, I think this season has been a complete waste of time. There's really nothing progressing other than like a few episodes here and there. I think the pacing has just been bad. And this finale is going to be worse than Stranger Things. Everything will be rushed because this was only an hour long. It's not even 2 hours, it's just 1 hour. So they have to close off a lot of things here in that short time window. I doubt they'll do it right. I would love to be proven wrong, but that's a very big if. That's all I gotta say. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll be here when I review the finale when I watch it tomorrow night. Goodbye.